here to talk about the solar eclipse that we have going on June 10th. And we haven't had a solar eclipse like this in 20 years, okay? So if you're old enough to look back, what were you doing? What was an important theme for you 20 years ago? Please go ahead and do that rewind and see what was going on. It's not the same situation, but yes, probably the same theme going on. Okay, so basically we have solar eclipse. For it to be a solar eclipse, we have to have a new moon. The new moon in Gemini, of course, and this new moon in Gemini is in conjunction with Mercury retrograde. But that same day of the eclipse, we have Mercury conjuncting the Sun, and basically this tells us that it is a new Mercury. Like we have a new moon, we have a new Mercury cycle, right? So this is important because it's marking the beginning and many new levels. It's not only a new moon, it's a solar eclipse, and it's also a new cycle for Mercury. Okay, so all these planets are going to be squaring Neptune. So that's why the past days, like 10 days or so, we've felt like we don't see clearly. There's probably been some confusion where we feel lack of clarity, and that is normal, okay? And this is going to start to wane by the end of the month when Mercury finally goes direct, and we're going to be feeling more like more clear, mentally clear. And this is just something that is going to happen. So when we have the sun eclipsing, the sun is consciousness and presence. And when we have the eclipse happening, it's like, okay, now we see it, now we don't. You know, it gets covered 100% by the moon. And something like that is exactly what we go through. So this eclipse is falling in the 19th degree area of your chart, 19th degree of Gemini. So check out where you have that specific degree in your chart so you can better understand in what area this is going to fall for you and what changes can it bring. All in all, like overall, we're talking about mental constructs. When we're talking about Gemini, Gemini rules communication, information. It also has to do with delivery of information. And when we have this situation going on with the Sun and Mercury and everything, it basically has to do with us updating. And like I say, with eclipses, it's like a download of new information, new DNA. Our whole DNA is getting like reprogrammed and everything. So it has to do with mental constructs and how we deal at a mental level with many different aspects, okay? So remember that eclipses are window periods of 6 months. So the new moon is June 10th. And when is that full moon in Gemini happening? So we can see the whole completion of the cycle. So the new moon in Gemini is June 10th, and the full moon in Gemini will be December 18th. So from here to December 18th, we have the whole second part of 2021 to see the effects that this eclipse will bring, okay? And it's starting a little bit slowly, like I said. We don't have the capacity to see clear right now, or to make like specific plans, and even we feel like a little bit frozen, because remember that part of Gemini's like attributes are that it's very mutable. It's a mutable sign, and it's quick to process information. It's quick to move. It's agile. And right now, with the ruler, you know, in um, retrograde, we feel like that we are like we can't really move or decide, or you know, or we feel confusion, and that's normal. And that's gonna be, like I said, waning towards the end of the month. Okay. Um, so basically, how are we talking to ourselves? How are we understanding ourselves? All this has to do with the stories that we tell ourselves. All this is changing, is going like under revision. Like I said, this hasn't happened, an eclipse like this, for 20 years. So it's potent. Wherever it's falling, it's most definitely bringing a shift for us. And and it's important to note that it's like the way we handle new information. Like the other day, I was reading that that, for example, a year ago, or in the past year, CNN had lost its televised audience like 47%, almost 50%. And that is like a clear example of this energy on the collective, okay? Because people are receiving new information like through new channels, you know? And what do you believe? And what are you going to make out of the information you receive? Are you going to believe everything you receive just because it's an MSM or mainstream media? All this is being like revised, and all this is going through a shift. And I just put that example out there because that is part of the collective energy that we can easily relate to. And of course we know that, right? Because we are receiving information through other means nowadays, right? So basically, I'm gonna go house by house, seeing like where this eclipse is gonna fall for you, and explain a little bit of that energy. So if you are a Gemini rising, and you have the 19th degree in the first house, you are going to be feeling this in your persona. Like the way you see yourself is totally changing, and you are emerging as a new person. And even the way you project yourself is totally different. So people are going to be like perceiving you differently, okay? So if this eclipse is falling on in the second house, that tells me that your value system is being changed. Maybe like also the body, how you perceive yourself, like the body, and the like physical assets may be changing, but also like maybe there is an end to a way of making money, and a new way of making money will be starting for you. And if this is falling in the third house, which is ruled by Gemini, that has to do with the way you think, with the way you perceive information, and with the way you communicate. And all this is being shifted for you right now. If this 19th degree Gemini is falling in the fourth house for you, this has to do with like the stories you've told yourself around your childhood, around your past, you know, like for example, if you had like a missing parent, and you have like abandonment issues, and maybe you've like instilled this into your story, right? Because we all have like these stories we tell each other, we tell ourselves. So it's like, okay, maybe that is changing the way you see your own story, the way you perceive your own background, your own childhood. that is going to be changing for you. So that is very potent stuff right there. If this is falling in your fifth house, it has to do with maybe like new projects, new hobbies, new creative projects. It can even be like a pregnancy, um, you know, things that have to do with your creative ability opening up. And if this is falling in the sixth house, has to do with routines. It has to do with your health. It has to do with your job. It can be a change in jobs, and a change in the way you perceive your daily routine too. And if this 19th degree falls in your seventh house, this tells me that you are changing the way you see yourself in partnerships, in relationships, one-to-one relationships, or even like marriage type of relationship. That is changing for you, and there's a new way of looking at this. And if this falls in your eighth house, it has to do with things that we share with others, properties, money we share with others. Maybe that is going revision. Also, like money we owe, money that is not ours but we handle. Also, so all this is being like shifted, the way we perceive all these different themes. If this is falling in the ninth house for you, that has to do with legal papers, it has to do with foreign affairs, it has to do with higher studies. So basically like a new chapter opening up in these areas for you. And also this has to do like with self-promotion. If you work on your own, if you're independent, this has to do with self-promoting yourself too. It's a great moment to do it. If this falls in the 10th house, it has to do with your career and also the way other people perceive you, like your career, your work, but the way other people perceive you may be changing, and the way maybe you perceive other people perceiving you. So maybe it's like, okay, I don't care anymore about what people think about me or what people say about me, or just like the whole perception of that is changing. And if this is falling in the 11th house, it has to do with groups. So maybe you are feeling totally different with groups of friends, social settings, social groups. Also this has to do with our political family, and just changes around that, the way you think about relating to these groups. Also clubs, it has to do with clubs. And if this is falling in the 12th house, and this is probably the most difficult to explain, if this is falling in the 12th house, it has to do with thought patterns that are there, but you can't really tell they're there, because it's like the 12th house rules the subconscious mind. So it's like you telling yourself a story, you believing a story that you are not aware that you are telling yourself. So this is probably gonna come to light at some point. Remember, we have 6 months, so it's not like the June 10th something's gonna happen, or like this week something's gonna happen. No, this is like a process of time. Although we do see like a major shift, or we do understand what goes on within the first month of the date of the eclipse. Okay, we see where the shots are coming from, kind of thing. But basically, you just want to become aware of this. And that's that. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. I love you and take care. And tomorrow and the days following, like Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, before the eclipse, we're black mooning. So just really relax, disconnect, silent, just go inside. Really, there's nothing to be doing outside. Just kind of like going. Ciao.